To hear that Kody is telling Janelle that the boys knew to apologize to me, I didn't know he was doing that.
No one could have predicted it. Not the frozen silence in the courtroom. Not the twitching spasm rippling through Kody's jaw. And not the electric wave of shock that spread the instant the judge leaned forward and delivered the words that would unravel everything. Mr. Brown, this court hereby directs you to disclose the full extent and exact whereabouts of all hidden financial assets, whether offshore accounts, personal trusts, or business holdings. The command thundered through the chamber like lightning striking twice, slow, heavy, impossible to escape. Robyn gasped audibly, clutching her designer purse to her chest as if leather and zippers could shield her from the storm about to break. Christine, sitting poised beside her attorney, didn't even blink. She had waited for this day, not for revenge, but for truth, for recognition, for the validation that her suspicions had not been paranoia, but fact. Kody fumbled with his tie, his hand trembling more than he realized. His lips parted, but no words emerged. Behind him, Robyn leaned close and whispered something sharp into his shoulder, inaudible to most, but powerful enough to cut through what little confidence he had left. In the gallery, Janelle sat stiff with her arms crossed, while Mary leaned forward ever so slightly, sensing a catastrophe unfolding in slow motion. "You have 72 hours," the judge continued, his tone stern, unwavering, "to submit notarized records of every account, every property, every investment, every business trust. Failure to comply will result in a court-ordered forensic audit, asset freeze, and possible referral for criminal prosecution." The weight of the declaration squeezed the air from the room. The stenographer's keys clattered harder, almost nervously. Kody blinked, sweat beading on his forehead. Christine's lawyer slid a single manila envelope across the table. Its black lettering stamped with the words, "Confidential. Start here." She didn't need to speak. The binder hadn't even come out yet, but what lay in that envelope was enough to force a judge to order something no wife had ever been given: the entire truth. Every dollar, every shell company, every secret, years of manipulation, deception, and coded withdrawals now compelled Kody to expose himself, under oath, with Robyn watching helplessly by his side. The judge's gavel struck once with chilling finality. It wasn't just money on the line anymore. It was motive. It was power. And for the first time, both were out of Kody's grasp. When the court recessed, Robyn rose slowly but didn't leave. Her eyes darted from Kody's face to the envelope Christine had handed over, her mouth opening as if to plead or protest, but no words came. Kody didn't look at her. He couldn't. His posture remained upright, shoulders squared, but it wasn't strength. It was the rigid stance of a man holding himself together before crumbling. Christine's focus shifted toward Robyn, not with hatred, but with clarity. She recognized the look on Robyn's face. It wasn't fear of what Kody might admit. It was fear of what he hadn't told even her. That was the curse of building a future on a man who bragged about compartmentalization. Mary sat motionless in the gallery. She'd once overheard the number whispered in hushed tones, almost too casually by Christine's accountant during a pretrial session. A number so large it could no longer be hidden in shadows. $3 million. Money funneled through 15 LLCs, disguised as real estate flips, endorsement deals, and even an anonymous Wyoming property no wife had ever laid eyes on. Yet payments from the dissolved Brown family trust still trickled into its accounts every month. Christine had tracked it all: coded transfers, buried contracts, even a clause signed by Robyn herself in 2020 granting her financial immunity if legal challenges ever arose. Robyn had signed it easily, trusting her place as the favorite. She never realized that trust would now serve as proof against her. Kody sat silent at the defense table, lips pressed tight, eyes locked on the empty bench as if sheer willpower could pull the judge back into the room and erase what had just been spoken. But silence was no longer his shield. Now it was Christine's weapon. The letter she had delivered barely scratched the surface. 2 sheets, a color-coded spreadsheet prepared by a forensic auditor she had secretly hired months ago. And buried in column 17, highlighted in red ink, was the detail that would shatter the courtroom. Robyn's name, tied to a property deed from a period when she swore she had been cut off. Christine rose, her heels echoing softly as she moved toward the door. The silence trailing her was more suffocating than any gavel strike. Robyn stayed seated, hands trembling as she pulled out her phone, Not to check messages, but to delete them. Kody finally lifted his head, but it was too late. The court wasn't asking for stories anymore. It wasn't requesting explanations. It was demanding evidence. 72 hours. That's what the judge had given him. Christine knew he wouldn't even wait that long. Not because of respect for the court, but because fear would drive him to act sooner. And sure enough, within 48 hours, the court reconvened in an emergency session. Fewer spectators filled the benches, but the tension was thicker, heavier. The judge, already briefed on Christine's preliminary evidence, fast-tracked the disclosure. Kody's attorney produced not a binder, not a packet, but a single flash drive labeled Full Financial Records. The clerk plugged it into the courtroom system, and the screen flickered alive. Spreadsheets, wire transfers, QuickBooks exports, LLC breakdowns, an overwhelming sea of numbers and secrets. Christine remained motionless. Robyn flinched visibly when her own name appeared under an entity titled Brown Legacy Holdings. The judge adjusted his glasses. Mr. Brown, explain this holding company. Kody rose, his voice low and rehearsed. It was established to safeguard the family's investments. Christine's lawyer cut in instantly. Your Honor, this LLC was never disclosed in marital filings. The address is a Wyoming P.O. box tied to a cabin Robyn visited in 2019. The judge arched a brow. Is this the same property you claimed was for a future spin-off location? Kody stammered. That's what I told the network. Yes. The lie fractured in real time. Christine calmly opened her copy of the records, each page stamped with account numbers and Robyn's tax ID. The judge continued reading. Withdrawals continued long after your show was canceled. Notes list guest hospitality and image consulting retainer. Robyn whipped her head toward Kody, panic surging in her eyes. You said that account was closed. Her voice trembled. But the real shock came when Christine revealed the next piece. A notarized power of attorney, signed by Kody, granting Robyn full access to the accounts. Christine handed it to the clerk. I found this in our family Dropbox before I was locked out. Robyn shook her head violently. That can't be, but it was. And the judge knew it. What they thought had been hidden behind trusts and passwords now glared on screen, undeniable, permanent, under oath. The tension in the room thickened like a brewing storm. Christine reached into her bag and withdrew not her full binder, but a single red-tabbed section labeled 2019 Discrepancy Year. She placed it on the table. Her lawyer slid it to the clerk. The judge ordered the camera to display it. The first page flashed, a deposit slip from TLC Studios, August 14th, 2019. Amount, $570,000. Source, Brown Family Holding Account. The judge nodded, consistent with prior testimony, but the next page hit harder. 5 withdrawal stubs, identical sums of $114,000 each, one for every wife. Christine pointed at her own. My deposit that year was only $76,000. I asked why. I was told it was restructuring. She turned to the next document, TLC's subpoenaed ledger. All 5 payments, each $114,000, but the routing numbers didn't match. 2 to Christine and Janelle. 1 to Mary, 2 to private accounts in Robyn's name. Robyn's chest heaved, but she stayed silent. The judge's eyes narrowed. Mrs. Brown, where did you obtain this ledger? Christine's voice was steady. Legally, through counsel. Dated and notarized. Kody didn't flinch. He didn't even feign surprise. His jaw just locked tighter. Christine turned another page. An $8,200 receipt to a Flagstaff interior decorator. Memo line. Final payment. Living room renovation. Robyn had sworn under oath she hadn't spent family money after 2018. Yet here was proof. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Robyn Brown, do you wish to respond? Robyn opened her mouth, but no words came. Christine clicked her binder shut. The sound was louder than any outburst. Numbers don't lie. And in that moment, the courtroom shifted. Christine was no longer seen as the bitter ex-wife. She was now the keeper of undeniable evidence. Robyn sat paralyzed, fists clenched, staring at the binder as though it were alive. Kody hadn't spoken a word, but Christine wasn't finished. She walked calmly to the evidence cart with a thin black folder. Your Honor, she said, her voice cold but even, this contains the original family budget projections from 2015 through 2022. All kept in our shared drive until I was erased. The judge nodded for her to continue. Spreadsheet after spreadsheet appeared on screen, emails, scans, handwritten notes, all linking Kody to a plan. Christine pointed to a highlighted line. In 2020, Kody proposed moving 65% of our investment capital to a new entity, one undisclosed to the wives. Dalton Holdings, LLC. The room shifted instantly. That name had never been spoken in court, never appeared in reports. But Christine had it. And she had more. Your Honor, her attorney interjected, we call Logan Brown to testify. Gasps echoed as Logan, Kody's eldest son, stepped forward. Kody turned, staring at his son as though he were seeing a ghost. Logan ignored him, approaching the stand with quiet certainty. From his pocket, he produced a crumpled log of notes, scribbled accounts of late-night financial talks with Kody, conversations Christine was never invited to join. The judge scanned the paper. One line was underlined twice. Make sure Christine thinks this is retirement. She won't question it if Robyn signs. Kody's defense shattered. It's out of context. He barked. Logan didn't flinch. You said it. I wrote it. You used me to cover your lies. Christine sat back down, calm, composed. The truth had finally spoken for itself. For years, Christine had been quietly gathering her receipts, and now the storm she had waited for finally cracked its first thunderbolt. It wasn't anger that broke the silence, it was precision. Logan's testimony, coupled with the scribbled notes he carried, had already shifted the ground beneath Kody and Robyn. Even denial now rang hollow. And then came the question that would rip through the courtroom like lightning. Mrs. Brown, the judge said evenly, did you sign any documents tied to Dalton Holdings LLC, or approve the transfer of joint family funds without full consent from the other wives? Robyn froze. Her lips parted, but words wouldn't come. Her lawyer leaned toward her, murmuring in panic, but the silence had already delivered its own verdict. Mrs. Brown? The judge pressed again. Finally, her voice cracked. Yes, but Kody said they knew. The admission dropped like a stone in water, sending shockwaves through the chamber. Christine bolted upright in her seat, Janelle covered her mouth, and even Mary, silent in the back row, arched her brows in disbelief. The judge leaned forward. Are you saying Mr. Brown deceived you, or that you signed knowing the circumstances? Robyn's face crumpled. I didn't realize the extent. He told me it was to hide money from TLC. He said we'd lose everything. The shift was instant. Kody's head snapped toward her, eyes wide with fury. That wasn't the script. That wasn't the plan. But the room had already turned. This was no longer about a family breaking apart. It was about survival. And Robyn had just begun throwing Kody under the bus. Her composure fractured and tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't want to hide the money. I just didn't want to lose the house. Gasps erupted from the gallery. The judge raised a hand for silence. Which house? Robyn hesitated, her face burning red. The Flagstaff house. The one solely in my name. Kody scrambled to explain. We needed it as security in case the others left. But Christine's jaw dropped. Janelle whispered to her lawyer, and Mary's eyes hardened. The truth was now on record. The Flagstaff property had been kept in secret, absent from disclosures and depositions. The judge's tone sharpened. We will subpoena escrow records immediately. Mrs. Brown, you are now subject to financial disclosure as a recipient of potential hidden assets. Robyn shook, withdrawing her hand when Kody reached for it. For months, whispers of a secret Flagstaff mansion had swirled online, a gated palace owned outright by Robyn. Today, it stopped being rumor. Today, it was evidence. By the next morning, stacks of deeds, escrow transfers, and wire receipts poured into court. The sum? $1. $3 million paid in full, no mortgage, all cash. Kody's signature as financial contributor. Worse, the down payment was dated just 4 days after Christine filed for divorce. The optics were catastrophic. The judge lifted the documents. This shows intent to divert community property into a single-wife residence. That is financial segregation. But then came the true bombshell. The property wasn't in Robyn's name. It was listed under Aurora. Gasps filled the room. Cameras clicked furiously. Robyn went pale. That's impossible, she whispered, trembling. But the trust papers were real. On February 19, 2023, the Aurora M. Brown Education and Estate Trust had been recorded, listing the Flagstaff house as secured property. The judge turned to Robyn. Did you sign this? Her hand shook violently as she admitted, yes, but... He said it was temporary, just for taxes. Kody shot up, fumbling. It was a tactic, a safeguard. But the judge wasn't moved. Mr. Brown, this isn't protection. It's exclusion. You used shared earnings to create a fortress for one household while isolating the others. Christine leaned toward her lawyer and whispered something. And within moments, a new motion was filed, an order to forensically account for every trust asset Kody had moved since 2020. Robyn buried her face in her hands, repeating "no, no, no" under her breath. Mary and Janelle exchanged a long, heavy look, a mix of heartbreak and vindication. The truth they had always suspected was now notarized fact. Christine sat serene, almost still. She didn't need to gloat. She had known this moment would come. The judge's orders flew thick and fast. A fraudulent conveyance review, a forensic asset audit, subpoenas for every hidden transfer. The stenographer's fingers raced to keep up. But just when it seemed the chaos had peaked, Christine's attorney delivered the final blow. Your Honor, new evidence shows Robyn's Flagstaff mansion was purchased with proceeds from the Kody Pass sale, without Mary or Janelle's consent. The courtroom exploded. Janelle sat bolt upright, Mary's jaw dropped, Robyn crumpled inward, and Kody's face drained of color. "That's not true," he sputtered. But the black folder of escrow documents told another story. The timing was undeniable. Land sold, mansion bought, money funneled. Christine had followed the money trail all the way into the shadows and dragged it out into the open. The lawyer immediately filed for asset clawback, seeking to void the sale and reclaim proceeds with interest. Robyn rose trembling, her voice a whisper. "He promised me we'd be safe, that this would all be okay." The silence afterward was suffocating, like the pause before a storm's first strike. The judge slammed her gavel. "Mr. Brown, the court requires clarity. Who authorized the sale of Kody Pass, and who received the proceeds?" Kody's face flushed darker. He fiddled with his wedding ring, spinning it nervously. "We needed security," he muttered. Christine and Janelle were leaving. Mary was gone. "I had to protect what was left." The judge's eyes narrowed. "So you funneled community property into a mansion titled under your wife's daughter. Is that your testimony?" Kody stammered. "It wasn't permanent. It was a stopgap." Christine's lawyer cut him off, sharp as a blade. "Then explain the $490,000 wired to a Nevada LLC 3 days after the sale." The clerk pulled up the highlighted transfer. "A P.O. box, a shell company, nearly $500,000 gone." Robyn stared at him in horror. "What is that, Kody? What did you do?" Janelle rose from the gallery, breaking decorum. "That was our retirement, our children's future." And he wired it away. The judge nodded. "You'll have your chance to testify, Mrs. Brown, but this money trail is damning." Kody snapped, his voice desperate. "It was supposed to protect us. I never thought it would end up in this courtroom." But every word only pulled him deeper. His empire of manipulation was crumbling, one receipt at a time. Robyn's sobbing transformed into something sharper, darker. Her tears gave way to anger. She stared at him, her voice low, trembling with rage. "Save us, Kody, or save yourself." The judge's gavel cracked the silence. "Mrs. Brown, if you have further evidence, it will be admitted." Robyn's hands shook as she handed over a printed email, dated the day before the wire transfer. A shell corporation. Kody's name listed as CEO, his signature plain as day. "This is your signature," Robyn hissed, her voice breaking. "You lied to all of us." Kody's knees wobbled. His mask of control was gone. The court had him cornered. His mask of control was gone. The court had him cornered. Robyn's voice trembled, thick with disbelief. "He didn't just betray them," she said, staring at the email on the monitor. "He betrayed me." The room absorbed it like a shockwave. This wasn't merely a scandal anymore. It sounded like a crime unfolding in real time. Janelle leaned toward Christine and whispered, "She just flipped the chessboard." Christine nodded, lips pressed, eyes steady. For once, Kody had no words left to control the narration. His fortress wasn't collapsing from outside attacks. It was caving in from the inside. His most faithful soldier had defected. The energy shifted from volatile to ominous as the email bearing his signature slid into the official record. Judge Penelope Grace leaned forward, pen at her chin. "Mr. Brown," she said, low and measured, "you will not speak unless addressed." He nodded mutely, staring into the polished wood as the last pretense of solidarity, planning, and confidentiality shattered in front of everyone. Then, a twist no one predicted. Robyn whispered a single word to her attorney. Whatever it was, lit a fuse. He sprang up with an emergency motion. "Your Honor," My client seeks a protective order to create legal distance from Mr. Brown's financial resources, trust funds, LLCs, and real estate ventures in her name or her children's. The room erupted. This wasn't a verdict. This was a financial shutdown. The judge allowed the filing and froze joint and personal accounts linked to Kody pending review. Coyote Pass, frozen. Trust funds, frozen. Even appearance fees, flagged. Robyn folded her arms tight and breathed like she'd just chosen survival over loyalty. "If I go down, I take everything you love with me," she whispered, and Kody heard it. His face went ashen. The projector flickered again, mapping a web of shell companies tied to Robyn's in-law signatures and asset shield states, with Kody Brown at the center. The judge's voice hardened. "We're now considering possible fraud, misappropriation, and deliberate concealment of marital property." Kody was no longer a reality patriarch. He was a defendant orbiting federal exposure. Robyn stopped sobbing. She started calculating. Christine reached beneath the table and slid out a faded blue binder. The one, not a copy, not conjecture, the ledger. Her lawyer carried it to the center. A handwritten fiscal log covering 12 years, income, withdrawals, acquisitions, and trust redistributions, most never disclosed to this court or the spouses. The first page hit the screen. KB initials beside numbers and notes. Robyn's cabin repairs, cash to Vegas Act, Aurora Surgery Fund, do not share. Gasps rippled. "Is this authenticated?" the judge asked. "Yes, Your Honor." Handwriting confirmed. Dates align with sealed records. Bank statements match line for line. There was no retreat. The ledger documented $3 million flowing through 5 aliases and 3 LLCs, including $700,000 into a Brown Williams property fund used to renovate a private Flagstaff home under Robyn's maiden name, not the family trust. Robyn shot up. "That was never meant to be shown." Too late. The judge lifted a hand. "Miss Brown, remain seated or be removed. This ledger is evidence." Robyn crumpled back into her chair. Kody sat frozen. The blue binder did what no cross-exam had done. It stripped his myth clean. "Based on this," the judge continued, "all documents tied to the Brown-Williams Fund are subpoenaed, and a full forensic audit of Mr. Brown's personal and business accounts is ordered." Christine exhaled, a small release after years of pressure. The judge called a recess, but no one moved. The narrative had transformed. This wasn't a family fight anymore. It was fraud, with Robyn now legally entangled. When court resumed, every lens focused on an unexpected witness, Mitch D., former executive producer for the first 10 seasons. Sworn in, he answered Christine's counsel without flinching. Yes, he'd been directed to conceal or redirect payments. Yes, there was a 2-tier system. What the wives were told and what actually hit Kody's accounts. Money flowed into Family Values LLC, Brown Legacy Media, and in 2016-2017, Robyn's House Fund, bonuses earmarked for housing upgrades accessible only to Kody and Robyn. Were these disclosed in contracts or filings? The judge asked. "No, Your Honor," Mitch said. "Off-book negotiations, but there are emails and I saved them." The projector lit up. "Keep this between us. FA Property Fund split. Sender, Kody Brown. Recipient, TLC Senior Legal." Line by line, the emails diverted money from joint ventures into Robyn-titled real estate. TLC flagged ethics concerns internally but kept paying to avoid talent disruption. Robyn whispered, "They said it would be our house." Just loud enough for the mic. For the first time, Kody looked spinless. No sermon, no swagger, just a man under the weight of his own paper trail. "Why come forward now?" asked counsel. "Because I helped cover it," Mitch said. Christine brought the ledger. "I had to make it right." The judge nodded. "Subpoenas will issue to TLC's legal team. The court will investigate undisclosed media income from 2010 to 2022. Christine glanced over with a grateful smile, not because it was over, but because it was finally on record. Then came Janelle, steady, unshaken, taking the stand with a folder that hummed with consequence. "I kept records," she said, "because I knew this day would come." Screens filled with verified texts and receipts. Early 2021. "Keep this quiet. Transfer the tax return to Robyn's account. We'll reimburse later. Don't mention to Mary. A Wells Fargo receipt, $37,000 labeled Kody Pass Clearing, wired not to a family account but to R. Sullivan. The pattern repeated 4 more times, $22,000 to $48,000, after tax seasons or TLC bonuses. Then the blowtorch. A screenshot of a Wells Fargo app, Family Land Escrow, $175,498, linked to Kody, registered to Robyn's mailing address. A live, undisclosed asset. Mr. Brown, the judge said, were you planning to disclose this? I didn't think it was relevant, he muttered. Future planning? Future planning doesn't excuse omission under oath, the judge snapped. This is willful concealment. Cameras caught Robyn whispering frantically to her attorney. I didn't know about that account. Christine and Janelle exchanged a look. They'd heard that refrain before. Janelle closed her folder softly. I didn't want this, she said, voice steady. But he made it necessary. I built our life while he built secrets. We deserve to know where the money went. The judge ordered an emergency audit of all known and newly found holdings. The case had crossed from neglect into criminal concealment. As the gallery pressed in, expecting the gavel, one last voice rose, the quietest wife, the longest shadow. Mary stood without warning. I need to say something, she told the court. The judge waited, then nodded. Mary's voice wasn't bitter, it was bone-tired. I stayed because I believed endurance would make me matter. I was never told the truth about money, decisions, who he really was. He let Robyn be the only voice while the rest of us were shut out. We deserve the truth. She handed a manila envelope to the clerk. Inside, a notarized affidavit from a former TLC accountant confirming a $600,000 advance split, only between Kody and Robyn. No mention of the other wives. The room gasped. Even the judge recoiled. Kody hissed something desperate toward Robyn, but she didn't answer. Tears in her eyes, she stood, walked out in silence, and didn't return. The judge drew a long breath and read the ruling in a tone heavy with authority and disappointment. After reviewing testimony, records, concealed documents, and willful omissions, the court found Kody Brown in breach of financial disclosure, liable for concealment of marital assets, and complicit in misuse of collective funds. Orders. A mandatory forensic audit of all shared and personal accounts linked to Kody and Robyn. Immediate division of remaining sister wives' property. A freeze on Kody Pass until arbitration establishes rightful ownership. Reimbursement to Janelle and Christine of $875,000 reflecting advances and misappropriation. Prohibition on Kody making future financial decisions for any wife without co-signature under counsel. Referral to the State Fraud Investigation Unit. Kody slumped, hollowed out. Mary looked at him one last time, not with vengeance, but with finality. Christine and Janelle embraced briefly in the hall. Robyn was gone. Outside, media swarmed. Some fans cried, others cheered, most just stared. Kody exited alone, no wife, no plan, no empire. It didn't fall because the world turned on him. It fell because the truth finally caught him at the courthouse doors, and the unanswered questions would only grow from here.